ערב טוב, שלום לכולם. עושים את זה בעברית או באנגלית? מה שאני רוצה, זה תשובה טובה. מצוין. But we'll have to do this in English because I know there's an audience out there. I want to thank Ro for organizing this wonderful evening. I've been an Israeli for, it'll be 44 years this year. I was 10 years old when we immigrated here. And this is the first time that I've seen in elections that the parties are considering the Anglo vote. And it's not that there's not a lot of Anglos in this country. There are quite a few. But I think for the first time they realize the potential that this crowd has and the fact that the Anglo vote isn't set on one particular party. So that's what's so good about the opportunity tonight, is to hear these wonderful people and representatives of the parties that are here with us. First, I have to make a full disclosure. I work with the media now. My name is Daniel Seaman. For many years, worked for the government of Israel. I was the director of the government press office and now the bureau chief of Voice of Israel, the first English language talk radio program and station in the state of Israel. You're all welcome, voiceofisrael.com. So I now, as a journalist, have to make a full disclosure. First and foremost, I have always been, and still am, a member of Likud, a supporter of Likud. So I'm making that clear so you know where I'm coming from, but my years in government taught me to be, what we say in Hebrew, mamlachti. Meaning to keep my politics aside and concentrate on the issue to give you the most objective opportunity, and that's what we want to do here tonight. The other full disclosure is that I know most of the people here. And some of them I know extremely well. Michael Oren and I go back, oh my God, you don't want to know, 35 years, it's 36 years already. We served together in the paratroopers, and Mike has heard this before. I said there's no closer a bond between two heterosexual males than two guys who serve together in the same company in a combat unit. So yes, Mike can do no wrong in my eyes. And he is one of the most wonderful people I've met in my entire life, and I'm happy that he's continuing to serve the state of Israel. The other people here, I know Ronan Shoval, who I have tremendous respect for in the work that he's done over the years, and happy that he's joined politics. I know Ronen Hoffman, Dr. Ronen Hoffman. I know him many years. I think back to the Rabin administration when we first met, when you joined the Prime Minister's office when I was working there. Despite the political differences that we obviously have, or I wouldn't even say differences, the fact we're on different political positions, one of the people I have a lot of respect for over the years. I was happy he joined politics and met him in the Knesset a few times. Sharen Haskel I've met in the College of Statesmanship, which in my eyes is one of the most magnificent organizations today in Israel, training young people to be involved in the government in Israel, and it's very good to have good quality people joining. Levy, I just met this evening, and by the quality of the people who are here, and also Michael Biran, Michael Biran and Gila Yashar. Just knowing the other people who are here, I expect that you are as special and amazing people as the people that I've come to know over the years. So I'm happy to have this opportunity today to be here with you. But they'll have an opportunity to introduce themselves in one moment. These elections, we've heard a lot of Zeo anachnu or hu. Not who in English, but it's either us or him, or it's either us or them. And I don't know about you, but me as an Israeli, that on all sides, that rather bothers me. I think it's about all of us when it comes down to it. It's all of us living here in Israel, the quality of our lives, what is going to be happening in the next few years. Even when we have differences, even when we are campaigning, we have to remember it's about us. Now, there was many years the question of who's a Jew. And here's, I don't know, if you know Jewish history, we're not the ones who decide that. It's usually decided for us. There are all those who will be very happy to determine for us who is really a Jew, not always in the positive side. But in this country especially, when the missiles fell upon us several times in the past few years, they didn't check to see whose house is Ashkenazi and whose house is Sephardic, whose house is American and whose house is Russian, whose house is Jewish or whose house is Arab. Bedouin towns were were attacked, as in the north from the Hezbollah, Arab towns were attacked. The casualties here were Jew, Muslim, and Christian. Nobody asked us what our political opinions were. So based on that, I think that we should remember that this, when it comes down to it, is about all of us. And we have, as I said, fantastic people here. And I would like my first question to them is, first off, to tell us a little of who you are. More importantly, why you joined politics, why you joined the political system, and why the particular party that you joined. Why are you joining Michal, Labour Party, Ronen, your party, each and every one of you, the parties that you've joined, to tell us a little about what brought you to join that particular party at this time. And I think from that we'll have a little knowledge of who these people are. And I have to say one thing, there is a criticism here in Israel, or a cynicism. I don't know if you hear most of, I'm assuming, Olim or been here for a short time. Israelis are cynical. Have you noticed that? You have noticed that. And they're very critical of our politicians. But I've come to know, as I know some of the people here, and I've met a lot of the politicians in my career in government, we have some of the best people. We can be very proud of the quality of people who join the Knesset. Unfortunately, the good people doing good work don't always get the media exposure. So here tonight is the opportunity for you to hear from them why they're in politics, why they joined a particular party. Michal, Lefi Seder, you can start.
Hello, nice to meet you. Good to be here tonight. עכשיו? חזק. Good evening. It's good to be here today. And it's a really good question to start with. I was for 17 years a part of a youth movement, a Zionist youth movement called Hanor HaOved VaHaLomed. I lived in a commune. I dealt with education, informal education most of my life, and I thought that this was a very good way to change the Israeli society. But eventually I realized that it's not enough, because even if you have a really good teacher or a facilitator in the youth movement, eventually you send the kids home. And if in their homes there is despair and poverty, there is a limit to what the normal, common child can get to. And I realized that I have to change the environment and not only education. Education is really, really, really important, but it's not enough. And why did I choose labor? For 3 reasons. First of all, I'm a Zionist. And everybody says they're Zionists, so I'll say, what does it mean for me? It means for me that I feel a part of this movement that built the state of Israel, that I think was one of the most moral acts in the history of humankind. When I talk about Zionism, I talk about an inclusive, equal Zionism. When I talk about two-state solution, it's because I'm Zionist, because I want to live in a Jewish and democratic state. That was the first reason. Second reason is social justice. I'm a social democrat. I think that you cannot let the free market go on its own. I think that you can not only ask people to go to the military on the one side, the state of Israel should take care of people and back them on the other side. Take responsibility for health, for education, for welfare, for the right to for accommodation, a reasonable accommodation. And if you believe in Zionism and social justice, and the third reason is that I'm pragmatic. People sometimes say it as criticism against labor, but that's true. Sometimes we will prefer to give up about 50% of our values to make sure that the other half is actually happening in reality. And for those 3 reasons, I found myself into labor, and I helped making labor be much younger. When I got to labor 5 years ago, approximately, every event in the Labor Party looked like an event in an old age home. Now it looks like grandchildren came to visit in an old age home. You have the people that build the country, that build the state, And now you have a lot of young people that came after the social protest that decided that they don't have the privilege anymore to sit on the side, and they have to be a part and fight for the future of the Israeli society. Thank you.
Alan. So my name is Ronen. I'm 34 years old. I grew up here in Ramat HaSharon. And basically I want to tell you, I'll tell you my experience about the Israeli society. So I've been living in Ramat HaSharon, which is the most, I think, Meretz, maybe the Arab list are going to win there. Okay, that's the, maybe Ovadaw, maybe a few hundred, but it's like the most of the radical left in Israel live where I grew up, and I was raised up in a open school. It's not a democratic open school, which I learned a lot about being criticized to the Israeli society. What happened is I took those values of criticism and put it upon my society, which was unexpected for them. And when I was 25 years old, there was the disengagement. And I was a student in my first year, my third year actually, in Midabrim University, in the philosophy. And I felt that it would be a disaster for Israel. And I organized a hunger strike of students. About 100 students, we were hunger striking for 12 days. Actually, you don't lose a lot of weight. Disappointing. But you find yourself dreaming on hummus at night. That's the truth. Now, I remember that I went once to interview in the TV, and Gila Yashar asked me, why is always the right wing are telling us that very bad things are going to happen? Why are you always frightening us? And I said, look, I believe that it's going to be disaster. We're going to have rockets on Ashdod. And she said, you're always the right wing, telling us lies and trying to frighten us. And you know what? In the end of the day, this year, this summer, we got missiles not on Ashdod. Ashdod, Tel Aviv, Beersheba, Ashkelon, Jerusalem, and so on, half of Israel. And this is because we're going on the path of I would say, the mind of Oslo for more than 20 years. 22 years we're going on the path of Oslo, of thinking that the real problem in Israel is a problem which is based upon territories. We took territories, and that's why we have a conflict. But the real thing that I learned in my life, mainly in university, is our conflict is not with the Palestinians. Our conflict is with the radical Islam, who's trying to control the world, basically, and doesn't accept any kind of sovereignty which is not Muslim, and especially here, which is Jewish sovereignty. And we can speak a lot about the reason why, but this is the problem. The problem is not Judea and Samaria. The problem is ISIS. The problem is Jihad Islam. The problem is Hezbollah, and so on. During this, 2 more minutes. During this the hunger strike, I met my wife, and we wanted to, in Lag BaOmer that year, we wanted to go. We got married, and we wanted to go to a honeymoon. And instead of honeymoon, I got a call from the army to go to the Second Lebanon War. And when the war ended, I felt that many people were speaking that the problem is personal problem. You know, we had our chief of staff, Chalutz, in the morning of the war, sold all his stocks. Okay, and we had a lot of people thinking the problem with the Chalutz, with Olmer, who used to be the prime minister, with Peretz, who is unable to be the minister of defense. And I felt that the problem is much more deeper. The problem is that my generation, who grew up in Ramat HaSharon, stopped to believe in the Zionist idea. Stop to believe in Eretz Israel. Stop to believe in Am Israel. Stop to believe in our common values, because we had an area or a time of postmodern values, which became post-Zionist values, trying to say that it's not okay that Israel be a Jewish state. That it's not okay that Israel would be. You should feel embarrassed when you sing a tikva. You should feel ashamed when you have a Star of David in your flag. You need to say, as you said, immigration and not aliyah. You made aliyah. You didn't make an immigration. You made aliyah to Israel, and therefore we have a generation which is apologizing time after time that we are who we are. And that's something that I couldn't agree with, and therefore I created Im Tirtzu. The movement is working today in 15 universities and making advocacy for Israel in Israel mainly. And the reason why I joined in politics is because 2 years ago I left Im Tirtzu, and I'm trying now to continue the wars for, as I see, the war for the future of Israel, to make sure that Israel will be more Jewish state, more democratic state, more Zionist state. And I think that the path to do it is through a party who does not apologize about the fact that we love our country. Thank you very much.
Ooh, thank you. כמה זמן יש לי? Hello, so I'm Noah. I live in Jaffa. I'm 30 years old. I joined politics actually, I think, when I was 14 years old. I was quite young. I was, in Israel, everybody who grows up here knows that political discussions don't start when you get, 18. It starts at the minute that you're born and you start talking to people, they start to talk about politics. And yes, I grew up in the Oslo times, and I grew up when people were talking about peace, but there wasn't any peace, and the occupation continued. The settlements grew bigger and bigger. There was the Oslo, peace process is one name, but it wasn't actually bringing any peace. And the terrorist attacks on Tel Aviv continued. As a child, I already started asking myself, what could be the reasons for this? And my explanation and my answers were quite the opposite of the ones that Ronen just gave you. So yes, I believe that the continuing occupation of the Palestinian territories is a clear reason for the Palestinians to continue harboring rage and hatred against me. Against me. I sit alone in Jaffa, and I feel really nice and good about myself and my neighbors. I feel that Jews and Arabs are both my we. When I say we, us, when I say who is my camp, then it's Jews and Arabs. Jews and Arabs who live here and want to live together peacefully. But my friends, my brothers, are going to fight against these Palestinians, occupy their lands, control them with military troops in their villages, take children from their houses. And this situation makes the terror circle continue. That's what brought me to politics. I joined, I think, Peace Now when I was a kid, and then later when I started to ask, okay, but my society, what about the social and economic problems that I see everywhere around me? And why doesn't Peace Now care also about the poverty in Israel? And that's where I started looking for a left wing that will give me both the social economic answer and the political national answer. And that's why I joined Chadash, the Democratic Front for Peace and Equality, which is a socialist, internationalist party, Jewish and Arab together. That's still my home. I am number 7 actually in Chadash. And I believe I think that Chadash is the reason why I kept being in politics in Israel. Because I had a political home which wants the same things that I want, which is democracy, peace, and equality. These are the 3 values that lead my political political path. But this time I come to you as a representative, not of we're called the Joint List, not the United List. There's a mistake here. The Joint List, well, it's nicer in many ways, but the reason that we call it the Joint List and not the United List is because the parties didn't lose their identity. We're still active as Chadash, Balad, Ra'am, and Ta'al, which are 4 parties. Why did we decide to run together these elections? There has been a shift in the political sphere in Israel, in the political right mainly. The argument whether the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza is legitimate or not is ongoing for many years. But Only since, I believe, the Second Intifada has the arguments come inside Israel. And suddenly, this enemy that we need to fear and loathe is the Arab neighbor. The Arab neighbor, and not only the Palestinians on the other side of the Green Line. And suddenly there's been all this incitement against the Arab citizens of Israel. The racism has risen. And every day we hear from Lieberman and his people that maybe some of the Arabs of Israel will lose their citizenship. The new bill of that changed the percentage of the entrance to the Knesset was directed, and everybody said it officially and publicly, in order to keep the Arab parties out of the political sphere, out of the parliament, out of the Israeli political arena. And in this point, where they tried to take the minority out of the political discussion, this was the point when we said, okay, now we have to stand together. We are a Jewish Arab party, and we joined 3 other Arab parties, saying that the minority is part of Israel, part of the political reality in Israel. The voice of the Arabs in Israel is part of the voice that needs to be heard in the parliament, in the street, everywhere. And whoever doesn't want to live with Arabs needs to leave the Middle East. I'm Jewish, and my family came here 3 generations ago. And when my family came here, actually right after the establishment of Israel, and the establishment of Israel, and here again, I have a different story than Ronen's. In the establishment of Israel, okay, I'll make it shorter. Jews came from all over the world, saying we want this to be our homeland. And the majority of the people here were not Jewish, they were Palestinians. Arabs, if somebody doesn't want to call them Palestinians. And in the war, 80% of them left, either been deported or escaped, ran away. There's this historical discussion which I don't want to get into because it's really not important. But Israel has closed the borders right after the war. And this is something that is not done. In every war, people leave. People run away. Even in the 90s, Tel Aviv got emptied when there were some missiles when we fought against Saddam. But the people, of course, can return to their houses after the war is over. This is how the problem of the Palestinian refugees has started. This is how the enmity between Israel and all of its neighbors has begun. And me, I am Jewish, and I want to live in this land. I want my children and my grandchildren to live here. For this, I need partnership with the Arabs. Partnership with the Arabs is the only condition that I see to a Jewish future in the Middle East. And this is why I call you to join me and vote for the joint list.
Hello. Thank you for everyone that helped this panel to come through. My name is Gila Yashar, and I'm coming from Uvis Khutan. This is a group of Orthodox religious women that we want to go to the Knesset to hear our voice. I was an English teacher, and I worked helping kids that are have problems in school, and from also my experience that I had 2 months ago. If you heard about the story from a woman that sent to jail because I didn't want to accept my divorce without getting my basic right, and I was sent by the Rabbani court to the jail. Because I didn't come one time to a discussion, so they thought that I was a criminal woman. They sent me to jail. On the way, I get to the hospital because I felt very bad. They handicapped my hand, and for 3 days, I was like a prime minister. I had 4 cops taking me
I will be the first one, if I will go to the Knesset, that I was on the way to prison before I was selected to be Chavrat Knesset.
I think you will not be the only one.
So, what we want to bring as an Orthodox religious woman, it's not easy. We have to fight our community that we are coming from, but we believe that we have a very important agenda that I think it's common also to you, all the voters from all the companies that are running now for the Knesset. We want to lead a revolution from within the inside the Orthodox community, to change it from the inside, to have like a bridge between the Orthodox community to the whole society of Israel, and not that we will be a side company. We have to join all together, never mind the Orthodox or the Dati Leumi or unreligious people. We are one people, we are Am Israel, and we should be together. Never mind what the color of our face, what is the color of our clothes. We should respect each other for each opinion and be together. And this is what we want to do. Now the question is why we are doing that. There is also enough existing Chavri Knesset that are members of the Haredim, but unfortunately they are not taking care for the women's rights and taking care enough for the education of the children. And we want to do that. And we really need all the help we can get, because we are leading now a revolution that it's not supported enough by our community. And because it's very important and it's new, it will not be from today to tomorrow. It won't be immediately. It will be a progress. It will take time to get involved the Orthodox people inside the whole society of Israel. It has to be done, and this is the time. For 67 years, we voted for the other company, and we thought that maybe they will take care of our rights, but we saw that they are not. Example, there was a discussion in the Knesset about the health of the woman. No one, just no one from the Orthodox Haredim company came to this. And why? Is it important? And also for the discussion about the zero ma'am, for the basic things that we are struggling. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. No one from the Orthodox community came. And it's very important to change the face of our society, to change the face of our Israeli society. And not that I'm underestimated all the issues about security and Arabs and everything, but we have a lot of issues inside us to deal with and to make solution and to find a law things through the government to help that to be happened inside us. The issues of the security and peace, it's important, but I think that we should bring our society first to everything, and it's not been taken care enough. All the time we hear about peace and not peace, about Iran or not Iran. What about us? That we are struggling here every day for the basic thing, for the women that their voice is not being heard, for the weakest peoples. Somebody has to take care for them. And not that we will be in a society with many problems inside, but we are very inside what is going to happen with the Arabs, with the peace or not peace. This is not the issue. And I hope that you will help us, that our company will get to the Knesset as a woman Orthodox society. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Sharen Haskel. I'm number 31 on the list of the Likud. I come from the issues of the environment. I'm an environmentalist. I'm a vet nurse. And many people would ask, why would you be in a right-wing party? And the reason is, it is because when you really go and vote, you vote on the national security and you vote on the economy. And with the national security, we have two choices. We've got either the Likud under the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu, or the Labor that is willing to make dangerous concessions that might endanger our lives. Now, look, when we talk about security, we have many problems here in Israel. We see Iran is getting stronger, it's getting nuclear ability. We see that the Arab Spring had created an unstable Middle East. And of course, we've got our problems with the Palestinians and the borders. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu, you know, like these issues are led by the prime minister. It means it's the leader of the biggest parties. And Benjamin Netanyahu has said that he will not give up any land while it will endanger our security and our needs. As well, we know that only Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud will stand against all the international pressure from all around the world. And he's proven it even now when he went to the United States to look after our security interests. And this is something that I don't know if you'll be able to count on Tzipi and Bougie to do the same thing. I've heard now from the European Union as well talking about להחרים, to boycott products from the Golan Heights. And my question is, in 10 years from now, when the European unions will put so much pressure on the Prime Minister to leave the Golan Heights, who will really stand for our interest, for our security needs? And you can always count on the right, on the Likud, to really to take care of it and to consider first thing the interest of our security. Now, with the economy, we see we have done a lot. Of course, there's a lot more to be done. But if you look on the rate of unemployment, we see that we have the lowest employment rates in the last 30 years. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates from all the Western countries, which is incredible. We see the employment rates going up. Under the Likud leadership, we have built this startup nation that so many other countries looks up to. With different legislation like free education from the age of 3. We have raised the minimum wage twice in 2012 and 2000 and now. And this means that the poorest people, the ones who are making the least of earning, now can earn more. More than that, we see that there's more people who actually join the working force. It means that we have more. It means the economy is becoming more stable. If you look on the Gini, the Gini inequality Madad index, you can see that from 2011, under the leadership of the Likud, there's a drop in the gaps. It means that the gaps of inequality are getting smaller and smaller. And this is something that we go for under a liberal economy. We understand that Michal, that is talking about the factories of Israel and the economy and the social economy, we understand that that brought to us many problems as well. Like, for example, all those unions who are paralyzing our country, like in the ports. closing goods and not letting them into the country. That's causing huge problems. And what the Likud has done, it broke the monopoly that they had and is building now 2 new ports that will compete and will drop the prices of goods that are entering into the country. In a few years, you will be able to see also, because of that, a drop in the prices of shoes, clothes, everything that's being imported into Israel. And this is a free market. This is opening it up. And we have done it with many more things. We have done it with Shamayim Ptuchim, which dropped the prices for flights. We have done it with the cellular reforms under the umbrella of the Likud, because this is part of what we do. We believe in breaking those government monopolies. We believe in competition, and with that, we're going to drop the prices. Now, our next biggest challenge. Our next biggest challenge is housing. And what we're doing is moving the bases, the IDF bases, from central location into the Negev. It means that in major area like Ramat Gan, Ramat Sharon, all those places that people want to buy apartments, we are clearing the land and moving them into the Negev. And all this land that's being cleared, there's enough room to build 100,000 housing units. And we see that this is going to be the solution for the housing. And this is what our next step in the economy is. Look, at the end of the day, we share same values, ideological values like the Bayit Hayehudi. And they are our natural allies. And the question is whether we are going to sit with them in the government or in the opposition. And every vote that goes out from the Likud risk the option for the Likud to form the government. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Ronen Hoffman. I'm a member of Knesset, Yesh Atid party, and I've been involved in the peace process for many years. And then I founded, together with a friend of mine, Boaz Gano, the International Institute for Counterterrorism at the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya. And I've completed my PhD focusing on political negotiations and war studies. Then I joined politics. I joined Yesh Atid party. And why is that? Yesh Atid, members of Knesset and ministers of Yesh Atid, are people who did not grow up in any political system, any political party in Israel. People who came out of politics, decided to get into politics and change the things that nobody else dared to touch and change for many, many, many years. We realized that something in the system is really broken, something is wrong. And we have to fix it. We have to fix it. And the problem is, and the thing which is wrong, is the fact that politicians along the years, across the political map, from the extreme right wing to the extreme left wing, for years and years and years, failed to look and see the citizens, failed to care for the citizens. They cared only for their own political interests, for their own parties. They have been prisoners, the politicians, from all the political parties. They have been prisoners in the hands of interest groups and of the members of the central committees and other interest groups, trade unions, and so on and so forth. We decided to get into politics in order to fight it and to change it, and to fight for the soul of this country, to fight for the people, to fight for the citizens, to fight for Holocaust survivors. Have you noticed how many times the Prime Minister refers in his speeches to the Holocaust? But he never referred to the Holocaust survivors. So we are here to fight for the Holocaust survivors. We allocated more than $1 billion shekels to Holocaust survivors for the rest of their lives, including free medication. We are here to fight that everybody will serve the country, including the ultra-Orthodox, the Haredim. And we are fighting for everybody to study general studies, because if you don't teach your kids English, mathematics, and computers, you don't provide them with the tools to get integrated later in the market and in the economy. And we are fighting for housing. we created 2 plans for housing, for solving the cost of housing and cost of living. One is for the short term, because it takes time. So for the short term, we proposed the zero VAT plan, which is a discount for young couples who served in the army and who go to work, until the long-term plan that we proposed will be ready and will be implemented, which is just freeing land for building and building and building new apartments. And of course, we are fighting for education. We are fighting for smaller class sizes. We are fighting for summer programs for parents. You know how expensive it is to keep the kids at home for 2 months in summer vacation? So we started, Shai Piron, our Minister of Education, started a program in the summer that will save parents between 500 to 1,000 shekels. And we've accomplished many, many things that I'll tell you later about it. But the main reason for us getting and going into politics is to fix that wrong aspect of the Israeli political system. To fight for the country, to fight for the soul of the country, and to fight for the people. Thank you.
Go. Hi. You guys all speak perfectly good English. Well, Danny, thank you. Thank you for reminding me how old I am.
I really want to know
what?
Why you had to go into politics. You had a perfect life.
I had a perfect life. I had it made. I was just writing books and traveling, but I'll tell you why, exactly. First of all, Erev Tov, we're getting into the last lap of this election, and many of the people on the panel, I know I speak from Ronen, have been in dozens of these panel discussions across the country, and this one is really interesting. Some of the most interesting points of view I've heard so far. So thanks to all of my fellow panel members. Thank you, really. Hear it. Thank you for them. Very interesting, very interesting. Okay, so here I have a different accent. Usually I make fun of my accent in Hebrew. Now I get to make fun of my accent in English. I come from New Jersey. Anybody here from New Jersey? Yeah! When I was ambassador, I used to say I used to spend more time defending the state of New Jersey than defending the state of Israel. Perfectly good state. Perfectly good state. I come from a conservative Jewish background, a little Zionist, but from a very, very early age, I knew I wanted to live here, and I basically ran away when I was 15 and went off to work on kibbutz, and every year I'd come back and shovel a lot of snow and mow a lot of lawns so that I could go back every summer and work in Israel for free. Okay? Now you know why I'm in politics. Back then it started. And until the time when I made Aliyah, as Danny tell you, I went into the paratroopers. I was a lone soldier. This is a lone soldier in the 70s. Today there's 6,300 lone soldiers in Israel. I'm happy to be the world chairman of the Lone Soldiers Association, so I love working with these wonderful kids. And it's tough being a lone soldier. It was significantly tougher close to 40 years ago. But the great challenge of any lone soldier is not being the lone soldier. The day that you finish being a lone soldier is the day you go into the bakum and you give in your lock, and then you go out to look for a job and look for a house in this country. Starting from nothing, because I have no family in this country. But I knew back then that if I worked hard enough and I saved, someday I could have a house in this country, someday I can raise a family. I met a lovely woman, she's sitting over here, Sally, say hi, who came from San Francisco, came from a real place, and we're able to raise a family, my daughter Leah, hi, and my son-in-law Yair, here, wonderful family, but it was a struggle. It was always a struggle. We lived in the south. We lived about a half an hour south of Beersheba. We lived in a 2-room apartment. We had 3 kids in 1 room, and when I got my paycheck at the end of the month, it didn't cover the overdraft from 2 months before. So I knew it was like to struggle. But yet we had this hope that at the end of the day, we could get the little apartment and do the Israeli thing of adding on maybe 1 room and doing a shipputz, and someday we could establish ourselves here. Today, and we have a very handy prop here. We have my new granddaughter in the carriage. It's Romy. I cannot say that, not Yair and Leah, but I'm not sure Romy will have the same opportunities that I had when I moved here. I cannot say for certain. Over the course of the decades, I spent my professional career studying Israel foreign relations, particularly U.S.-Israel relations. I wrote books about it. Eventually, I became an ambassador. I was there for about 4.5 years. And you learn a lot about the relationship, even if you studied it for 30 years. One thing that I was not prepared for, that an ambassador doesn't sit in Washington. Ambassador, whenever he gets a chance to, goes out of Washington, travels across the United States. It's a big place. And everywhere I would meet Israeli young people. And these were kids who would come out of the best units in the army, and they would say to me, Mr. Ambassador, we have served our country, but can you promise us that if we go back, and we don't care about doing Miluim, we'll do Miluim. If we go back, can you promise us that we can make a respectable living? Do you promise us that someday we'll have the hope of actually building a house in the land of Israel? And I couldn't tell them that. And for someone who went through everything I went through, going from there to here and building a house and building a family, it tore my heart out. But I couldn't give them an affirmative answer. I couldn't tell them yes. And when I came back here, just over a year ago, I met the parents of these kids who would beg me, bring our kids back from America. I can't do it. I can't. So you asked me, Danny, why are you going to politics? I met Moshe Kahlon, who I met, as a member of Knesset in Washington. Lots of members of Knesset come through Washington, lots of ministers. I met this guy. He made a very deep and profound impression on me. I saw a leader, I saw a visionary, and I saw a person who was deeply screwed into Israeli reality. And what's the reality here? This is reality check time. The reality is that, Israel has a high employment level, but people make nothing. We have one of the largest social gaps in the world next to Chile and Mexico. That's what we're on, folks. That's the level we're on. 20% of the population beneath the poverty line. 36% of the children in this country beneath the poverty line. You know what poverty is in Israel? That's someone who earns 2,800 shekels a month. If you earn 2,801 shekels a month in the state of Israel, you're not considered impoverished. Yeah, right. We have a completely monopolistic society. Monopolies control our housing markets. You may want to create 100,000 apartments in this area in the next couple of years, but who the hell is going to buy them? Because apartment prices have gone up since 2008 and 2013, 55%, and then 17% in the last year alone. Who's going to buy them? Rentals in this area have gone up 80% since 2008, and real income has gone down. So who's going to buy these apartments? So no one's coming along and dismantling the monopolies that cause this extravagant rise in prices. Today a report came out about banks in Israel. There are 5 banks in this country. 3 banks control 75% of the market. And they charge you for making a deposit, and they charge you for taking money out. Every time you put your credit card through a slot, you're charged by the 2 credit card companies that control all of the commissions. By the way, you don't pay any of these prices in the United States. The average Israeli family pays 3,000 shekels a month in charge commissions for banks, which are not completely free in the United States. They'll pay you to do it in the United States. Here, we've got to pay to have the banks manage our money. It is insane. And I'm the last person to say that the Iranian nuclear program is not an existential threat to the state of Israel. I sat in all the talks with the United States on the Iranian. I'm the last person to say that. But if you look at any Israeli poll, Israelis think differently. Yes, it's an existential threat, but the thing that most immediately threatens the continued existence of this country are housing prices and the cost of living, by far. And I saw it happen. I saw those thousands of Israelis in the United States. I take my Zionism very seriously. Zionism for me is about responsibility. That's why I've joined politics, because I can't sit on the side. I'm unwilling to sit on the side and watch this beautiful, wonderful country die because of housing prices, because of the cost of living. I'm just unwilling to let that happen. And that's what the Kulanu Party is about. We're about addressing these real problems. I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk about the peace process, talk about the Iranian nuclear program, but it begins with this. It begins with that message. We're here to save the country from economic ruin, period.
I think they all deserve it. Another round of applause for all the candidates. I wrote some points down here, but I also know that Mike has to leave soon. Am I right? You also, Ronen, or is it Mike? You're agreeing for Mike, okay. That's why I gave him a little more, because I know he won't be here later. I want to turn it over first to some questions. So if anybody has a question for Mike first, so I know he can answer something before he leaves. Any question for Michael Oren, Dr. Michael Oren? Michael, please. No questions for Michael? Everything was so clear? Yeah, you need some time to... Yes, you in the white. Get a mic.
Hi. I just want to discuss. I would like you to discuss a little bit about your foreign policy. I just haven't heard very much about it, and just I'm interested in hearing how you're going to form, how you're going to join with other parties, form a coalition to work with Obama, work with Abbas, just deal with all the existential threats that we're faced with.
Question. Hi, what's your name?
Simcha.
Simcha, hi. Thank you. So everyone in our list comes from an area of expertise. Our number 3 candidate is Eli Aluf. He's Israel's leading expert in the field in the fight against poverty. We have 40% women on our list who are, many of them are experts in improving the status of women in Israeli society. I come from the field of diplomacy. And what does a person who comes from diplomacy, what is he doing on a social and economic list? And the reason is simple. I have concluded years ago that the distinction between economics and social policy and foreign policy is an artificial distinction. Because if we're not going to have a strong society and a strong economy, it's going to deeply hurt our ability to conduct foreign policies in the world. And if we're not going to have a strong foreign policy, the chances of us ever having a strong society and a strong economy are also deeply, deeply depleted. A very small example. Every day in Washington, some senator or governor would call me up and say, how can I hook into Israeli innovation? How can I hook into your economy? And quickly I concluded, if our economy is going to be weak, our chances of preserving our strategic relationship with the United States is going to be weakened. So that's just the background to it. So what do I contribute? I contribute 40 years. It's horrible to say that. 40 years of work in Israeli foreign diplomacy and thinking about our foreign relations. And then of the 40, about 10 years in public positions. Ronen and I know each other from the Rabin years, from the early Oslo years. And then I actually sat in peace talks with the Palestinians. He sat in peace talks with the Syrians. I think I'd rather sit with the Syrians. And at least they tell you what's up. And these experiences deeply influenced my thinking. And I came to the party with a completely different approach to the peace process. It's strange enough in this accent, it's a Middle Eastern approach. It's an approach that's not based on the Western model. That's my granddaughter crying. It's okay, I love it, it's music. Look, she's perfect. I want her to have a house and a living in the state of Israel. I'm working. For the last 20 years, we've adopted basically a Western approach. Western approach is you have two people, a Palestinian and an Israeli, go into a room and they sit around a table and they sign a piece of paper. That's the goal. That's basically the Oslo process. And it is completely alien to the Middle East. It's a Western model. And on that piece of paper are concessions that neither side can make. We want the Palestinians to give up their claim to Jaffa and Haifa. We want them to give up the claim to the return of 5 million Palestinian refugees. We want them to recognize us as a Jewish state. Guess what? It's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen in the fast. I sorry to say this about our representative from Hadash, but Palestinians are trying to kill us for 50 years before Israel took the West Bank and Judea and Samaria. So it's not about settlements. It's not about what they would call an occupation. It's about us. It's about the Jewish state. They're not going to do that. And we should stop asking them to do that. I take a different approach. It's a Middle Eastern approach which is based not on signatures but understandings. And it asks each side not what they cannot give but what they can give. This sounds revolutionary, doesn't it? I'll make it very simple for you. It's based on 3 principles. First one doesn't translate very well into English. It's called chosin. And chosin means resilience, but it means much more than that. It's our eternal fortitude. And chosin means that we have to do what's good for us. First of all, with all due respect to Palestinian interests, all empathy, we have to wake up in the morning and ask ourselves, what makes us stronger? What serves Israel's national interests? And what puts us in a better place vis-a-vis Europe and the United States, particularly the United States? Chosin is based on a very realistic look at what's happening in our area, in Judea and Samaria. Mitziut. That's the second principle. And Mitziut means we look very clear that we see that in Judea and Samaria, 90% of the Palestinians there basically run their own lives. Tzahal is not patrolling in downtown Ramallah or Jenin or Bethlehem. And between the areas of what I call a two-state situation, a two-state reality, and the state of Israel, we have very good cooperation. We have a cooperation on water now. We have cooperation on international trade. All of the Palestinians' agricultural export goes through Haifa today. They're completely dependent on us. And it's a good thing. The third intifada didn't break out last summer despite repeated efforts of Hamas to ignite a third intifada, because the Palestinians had something to lose. We have an interest, in terms of chosen, of having the Palestinians even having more to lose. In terms of mitziut, reality check, in our world, the status quo is not sustainable. All right, so if you think that the government's position of doing nothing while Abu Mazen declares us war criminals, that's not sustainable. The right wing, particularly Bennett, is going to say we can annex 60% of the West Bank and nothing's going to happen. I guarantee you something's going to happen. We're going to lose not only Europe, we're going to lose America. And we'll lose not only, the Democrats will lose the Republicans. It's amazing. It's just going to happen. That's reality. The third principle is the one that's dearest to my heart as a Zionist. It's the principle of initiative. What initiatives do we take that, based on this reality, that increases our chosen, our resilience? And the initiatives we take is we take a two-state de facto situation and we make it stronger. We give the Palestinians better life, more to lose. We give them greater freedom of movement by removing roadblocks. We give them more water, so it creates 40,000 jobs in the agricultural sector. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be terror. We're going to have to deal with it. We're not talking about removing any of Sahal's ability to protect us, not in the air, not on the ground, none. We don't have to rip up any settlements. We do not have to redivide Jerusalem. Nothing. We don't come anywhere near that because there's no one to talk to. There's nothing to give up anything to. There's no negotiations going on right now. But there's three things we do have to do. None of them are so easy. One of them is we have to do, I'm going to finish with this, Dan, and that is this. We have to say to the world, we have no intention of ruling over 2.5 million Palestinians. I don't use the word occupation. You can't occupy your own homeland. But the world uses the word. And we have to say, we have no intention of ruling over these people. We want them to have their own lives. Secondly, we say that when we build in Judea and Samaria, we will build in accordance with an agreement we had with President Bush that was approved by both houses of Congress, called the Bush-Sharon letter, which recognized that the major settlement blocks, in which 85% of Israeli settlers and Israeli citizens live in Judea and Samaria, will always be part of the state of Israel, along with the Jewish neighborhoods of Jerusalem. And thirdly, we say, even though there is no Palestinian partner right now, should a Palestinian partner arise sometime, we will be there at the negotiating table. By the way, that costs us absolutely nothing. Nothing. And if we say this, nobody can come at us. They can't say, you are not sitting down with the Palestinians. The Palestinians aren't sitting down with us. They're not saying, they can't say that we are somehow building in the middle of some future Palestinian state, because we won't be building there. And we will always be ready. We will put us in an infinitely better position. If anybody has another option, believe me, I'd love to hear it. I'm always happy to learn, even at my age. Anyway, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right, we have to be out of here, I understand, at 10 o'clock, so I'd rather turn it over to questions to everybody, and I'll have to ask them to keep the answers a little shorter. Young lady here in the first row.
I have a question for Noah Levy. I was at a panel earlier today, and we heard from Raja Zatra, I hope I'm saying that right, who sits on the list with you. And he said some very harsh statements that Hamas, which is a terrorist, is recognized as by most of the world as a terrorist organization, is, accepted the peace process where we didn't, and things that like ISIS is Israel's natural ally in stopping peace worldwide. I would like to hear what you have to say on those matters as a Jew sitting on that list. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to answer. First of all, I want to say about the panel that you refer to. I've spoken to Raja right after it, and I know that he has received very, I'd say, aggressive or provocative questions, and the way they were phrased, which made him say the things in a specific way that was quoted out of the context as usual. And I'll give you the answer, which I think is what he meant to say. The Hamas is a horrible, horrible organization, political movement, okay? We oppose Hamas. If I was Palestinian, I'd waste my time sitting in panels not sitting in panels actually, resisting the Hamas regime in Gaza and the Hamas forces in the West Bank. They bring a lot of damage to the Palestinian struggle for freedom and independence. And Raja, I believe and I know for sure that agrees with me 100% in this question. But whether we agree with Hamas or not is not the question. The question is if you can say that they are the terrorists while we are just defending ourselves. And no, actually, I believe that the Hamas doesn't want peace. The Hamas wants war. The Hamas earns a lot from this situation that also Mike was describing as the situation in which the Palestinians have nothing to lose. And in this situation, they have to keep on fighting, and they keep voting for the extreme right wing, for the extreme fundamentalists in their society, because they're poor, because they have nothing to lose, because their houses are demolished. And in this situation, hatred is usually the path that humans take. It's sad. I wish it wasn't like that. But when people are put to the wall, they usually go and try to strike. And this is why the Hamas is in control. And when Israel acts in a very similar way. Israel doesn't try to really achieve peace. It tries to sustain the Jewish supremacy and the Jewish control over the lands. There are millions of Palestinians in our lands. They're under our control, and they can't vote. They don't have civil rights. Now, we don't support the idea of one state in which all the Palestinians have citizenship in Israel. That's not our political program, because we want two states. But if somebody doesn't want to give up the military control of the other, then he needs to give them citizenship. These are the two only options. And what happens right now is that our government keep harboring another war and another war and another war. And I can promise you that the next war in Gaza is just here to come. Because the closure in Gaza continues, and the poverty and the demolished neighborhoods can't be rebuilt. When the people live like that, they hate us. And the terror circle continues. About ISIS.
I have to cut you off so we give other people some
I believe Mike spoke quite a lot. You know?
Mike,
let me just finish my answering the question. Thank you. Also about ISIS. ISIS is, I think that if you read press releases. The press releases of the joint list, you'd find more bad words about ISIS than any other list, any other party that runs to these elections, because for us it's more relevant. A lot of our crowd and a lot of our voters are Arab, and they are the ones who face this, I'd say, very, very dangerous fundamentalist movement. Yes, what Raja says is that he thinks that if you really oppose ISIS, if you really oppose fundamentalism, if you really oppose the circle of terror and the circle of blood, you need to vote for someone who doesn't continue this circle. And this someone is us. We lead the sane, rational, and peace-seeking voice in both the Arab and the Jewish streets and societies. And that's why you need to vote for us. While the other parties are talking either of a Zionist camp or a national camp, we talk about the democratic camp, the democratic union, and this is our struggle. The struggle for the rights of all the people who live under this regime.
Yes, the lady in the red, pink.
As a representative of your party, do you think that Israel is a Jewish state and then a democratic state, or a democratic state and then a Jewish state?
I'd like to repeat something that Ahmed Tibi, who's a candidate from my party, had said about this issue. Israel is a Jewish and democratic state, which means it's a democratic state for the Jews, and it's a Jewish state for the Arabs. If you believe that this is just, then don't vote for us.
Hello again.
I think, again, this is not the issue, but I will answer your question. I think that this is our country, the Jewish country, first of all, for everything. There's a lot of Arab country that it's enough for them. This is our country, and we should protect it. We should keep it for us, and we deserve it. For many years, we fighted for this, and with all the respect to the Arab community, that we are not against them, chas v'shalom, but still, this is our country. We shouldn't give it away just like that. We should build it. We should take it as a new face of society where we can be all united, the Orthodox and the unreligious people all together inside us in Israel. And let's put all the issues again aside. We are always talking about the things outside of Israel. It's about the time to take care of what is inside Israel. We are talking so much about peace and Arab. We have so many things to make it correct here in our little country. We struggle for everything, like all my friends here said, that we should build it for them. And I'm asking back to all my friends here, we are a new party, okay? We are trying to bring the weak voice and the woman voice and the children voice, and I'm asking, where were you all these years that you were in the government, in Chavrei Knesset? It's about the time to change really, and I think that people always says, from the common people, we are coming. I'm finishing. It's about the time to change from inside, stop to deal with the outside things. Thank you.
I'm very uncomfortable with interrupting you guys, so just just answer the question very quickly.
Okay. Look, I've traveled in many places. I lived in many places. This is our only home. This is the only place where we can really feel comfortable being who we are without hiding it from anyone. The reason why this country was built is to protect our people, is because our people was in danger. And it's not finished. We see it all around the world. We've seen what happened in Paris. If we don't have a safe shelter, one only small country for ourselves, we will always be in the hand of other people. And this is why it's so important to have this one Jewish state here in Israel, which is our natural home. With that, it is important to give the full rights, equal rights for the minority. But the character of the state has to stay Jewish.
I'll be very short. Of course, I agree with that. This is the only place for us on earth. But the two values, two fundamental values, being Jewish and being Democrats. This is a Jewish and democratic state, and it has to stay like it. Because look, these two values do not necessarily contradict each other. But in order to be able to be a Jewish and democratic state, we have to divorce from the Palestinians. We have to do it. It's not a price that we're paying. It's our own interest for our national security, for our identity, for being Jewish and democratic forever. Now, the way, and Michael spoke about negotiations and about two situations and all that, we don't believe that we should do it or we can do it, divorce from the Palestinians, by we're having bilateral negotiations with the Palestinian leadership. No, we can't do it. But there are other key players in the region. And the other key players in the region are neighbors like Jordan, like Egypt, even the states in the Gulf, and even Saudi Arabia. Those are the key players that we should negotiate with. Our conflict with the Arab world is a regional conflict, and we should refer to it, and we should deal with it, and we should negotiate in a regional context rather than bilateral context between us and the Palestinians. By that, we will be able to reach some kind of agreement, not a peace, not the romantic dream of peace, but some kind of agreement for the long term, including separation from the Palestinians. And this is what we should do in order to be able to stay Jewish and democratic state.
Well,
That's my last thing. Why do you want to divorce the Palestinians? Can't we just be roommates? Having them dependent on us is actually kind of a good thing. Remember all that export through Haifa? We don't want to divorce them entirely. We just want them to stay in their part of the apartment.
I'm happy to divorce.
I like the roommate analogy. I think it's immaterial which comes first. I made Aliyah to a Jewish and democratic state or a democratic Jewish state because I think the two terms are interchangeable. I think that a Jewish state is inherently democratic. And I know that the origins of democracy, certainly American democracy, the founding fathers and mothers of the United States were deeply read in the Bible. And they became democratic because of their reading of the Bible, of the Jewish Bible. So to me, it's immaterial. What is essential here is that we fight a relentless war against discrimination in this country. Though I grew up in New Jersey, I grew up as I was the only Jewish kid in my neighborhood. And I got the crap beat out of me every day because I was Jewish. I know what it is to be the victim of discrimination. And it's not enough to say that everyone should have equal rights in this country. We have to fight discrimination. We have to fight hatred and really wage a war against it. On the other hand, as a democratic and Jewish state, we have the full right and duty to expect the loyalty of all of our citizens, irrespective of whether they're Jewish or not. You know, there are 250,000 Jews in Great Britain who have no problem saluting a flag, sometimes even fighting and dying for a flag that has not one but 3 crosses on it. So why can't all the citizens of this state salute a flag that has the Magen David on it? We heard just a little bit. I'll end with a quick story, Dan, what you like. We mentioned Ahmed Tibi, a very prominent and eloquent member of Knesset. One day I was sitting in Washington, and I got a letter from a lawyer saying that Ahmed Tibi was suing me for defamation of character. Why was he suing me? Because I wrote an article in defense of Israeli democracy for Foreign Policy magazine. And I noted that Ahmed Tibi had gone to give a talk for a group of the families of shahidim, people who blew themselves up and killed Jews in Ramallah, and praised them. And I said, gee, in any other normal democracy, this guy would not only be out of the parliament, he'd be sitting in prison somewhere. This shows how truly resilient Israeli democracy is. So he was going to sue me, and I thought this was great. Okay, let him sue me. Let him get up in front of a court and be asked by my lawyer, Mr. Tibi, do you think a person who straps on an explosive vest on his body and gets onto his bus and blows up 50 Israeli civilians, is he a martyr or is he not a martyr? I want him to ask that question. He didn't. He withdrew the charge. I was disappointed because it would have been a landmark case. I think we have every right and duty to expect that type of loyalty from all of our citizens, but at the same time, it's a two-way street. We have to fight discrimination.
Mike, I'm going to have to cut you off. No sentence in response. There to be respectful of your co-panelists. You got the first chance to answer. Allow 2 others to answer first. Ronen.
Regarding your question, I also agree that you cannot separate the Jewish and the democratic state. I'm a secular person. Being Jewish for me is the fact that I believe in Tikkun Olam. I believe in Or LaGoyim. I think being Jewish and being moral is basically the same thing. It's a calling. For me, it's a secular calling, but it is a calling. And eventually you have 2 choices. Either you'll have a state that not only all its citizens can vote, and that happens only in dark fascist countries. And people say, okay, but they vote for the Palestinian parliament, or supposed to vote for the Palestinian parliament. It's like somebody will say to some senior students, like high school students sitting here, that they will not vote for the Israeli parliament because they vote for the school council. How do you call it? Moetzet Talmidim. You need to have a vote for the body that gets to decide on the country you live in. So you have 2 choices. Either not everybody can vote, and that makes you a country that I think none of us would like to live in, because it has I don't like this phrase, you use it, but I'd say it's a country that I'll feel ashamed to say I'm from. The other option, if everybody's voting, and we won't have a Jewish majority, that Israel will stop being the home of the Jewish people. So the only solution that will help to stay as a Jewish home is the two-state solution. And this is why I'm in favor of two-state solution. Because I'm a Zionist and because I believe in a Jewish and democratic state, and you cannot take them apart.
Thank you. Well, you had a very good question. I will refer it, but first of all, let me just, would like to refer to some of my friends who said some very interesting things.
Sorry, Ronen, you have to answer the question.
No, I will answer it. Don't worry. They spoke a lot. I won't speak that long. So if you want to have, you know, I'm just wondering. We already separated from the Palestinians. They have parliament in Ramallah where they can vote. They decide on every aspect of their life. The only aspect of their life that they don't have responsible is an army. And I'm not willing to give them a responsibility for an army because I want to live. So we already separated from the Palestinians. Number one. Number two, I think, unlike Michael, that the places of Zuabis, people who are going and fighting against IDF soldiers, is not in Israeli parliament, but rather in Israel jail. So that's something very important. We need to understand that if we want to respect ourselves, and if someone is attacking us day and night and helping terrorists, as member of her party ran out of Israel because he helped Hezbollah to put missiles on Israel, okay? So he had to run out of Israel because he spied against us. So that's a thing that we need to stop. The fact that there are Arabs here helping, in our Knesset, helping terrorists is something which is unacceptable. Third, unlike my friends from Yesh Atid and Likud, they describe Zionism as a shelter for the Jewish people. Now, Israel is both a shelter for the Jewish people, but that's not the main reason why we made Israel. The reason we came back to our land and we didn't arrive here, we came back, is because we are fulfilling the dreams of 2,000 years. The dreams of having again, after the first house and the second house, again to have the third house, a Jewish state. This was our dream for 2,000 years. It wasn't to have a democratic state, it was to have a Jewish state. Okay, this was our dream. We came back to our land, we came back to our language, and we came back to our values, and we came back to our national history, and now we are having again place in history. So your question had, I think, and what was as I see it, Zionism is not only about shelter; it's about fulfilling the dreams of 2,000 years. This is what we are doing here. Shivat Zion, okay? Return to Zion. As we say on Al Ne'arot Bavel, Shem Yashavnu Gam Bachinu B'Zochreinu Et Zion, okay? When we sit in the, maybe you know, you have this song in Israel, on the river of Babylon, yes? This is about us. We were sitting on the river of Babylon dreaming about Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. And the most important thing, when you ask yourself what's the difference between democratic values and Jewish values, I think you have a conflictions here. We are a Jewish state because this is our value. The values is Jewish values. Democratic is the method that we make decisions. We are now part of the democratic system going to election. This is the way that we make decisions. But our values as a state is our Jewish values. And if you have some democratic values that we are looking up on them, this is mainly because all those values came out of Judaism, as Michael explained before. When you look at all the beautiful things that you see in the Western civilization, they came out of the Bible. So therefore, I see myself as a person who believes in democratic as a method of organizing the public life in Israel, but our values are Jewish values. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have 10 minutes, right, Ro? That's all we have left. So I want a quick question from somebody. Ro, you want to?
Regarding the social issues that we haven't talked about?
Ro, do you want to ask the question or? Okay. We'll take from the young gentleman back there. I took two on this side, so I'm taking the second one. The fourth question, yes. And I'm just asking the panelists, speedy answer.
Okay, regarding Tzok Eitan, there were bombs that went all over Israel, and Hamas is getting stronger and stronger. How do you think Israel should handle Hamas?
Who has the mic? Let's start. לא רוצה להתחיל בכלל.
זה הכי מעניין אם אתה לי.
Yes, very quick answers this time.
What's happening de facto is that you don't choose your enemies. They're there. You can choose the one that you can negotiate with for your own interests. What's happening here in Israel that eventually Netanyahu is negotiating with Hamas, which is a terror organization that's shooting missiles on our innocent population. On the other side, he's not negotiating with Abu Mazen that stops the huge majority of risks and danger coming from this side. So you need to be powerful with Hamas, but it can only be effective for short term. For the long term, you need an arrangement, you need to sort it out.
Well, you want to speak with Abu Mazen, who's giving 12,000 shekels a month for the murder of the Fogel family. So you want to negotiate with someone who's calling a roundabout in the name of terrorist attack. You want to make decisions, discussion with the person who wrote his PhD on Holocaust denial. So let's understand who we want to speak with. Now regarding the Hamas, and I would say it regarding any Arab who want to kill me and kill my daughters. Okay, I have 4 daughters. Any person in this world who would like to kill me, if someone want to kill me, I'm going to kill him first. Thank you very much, because I need to live.
I believe that the modern wars are not anymore wars between two armies. Two armies in which, there's one who's stronger, with more intelligence and more technological abilities, and then he just wins and the war ends. This is not the situation between us and the Palestinians, and we see that. There is no question in the world who is stronger. Israel is stronger than the Hamas, like 1,000 times. Our military powers are enormous if you compare them to the other side. They shoot at us, they take piles of metal and throw on us, and they call it missiles. They don't have anything in the missile. And okay, so there's no, so we won, and we win again, and we win again. And what happens then? They'll fight again. You cannot oppress a whole people and hope that one day they'll just stop fighting against us. And when Michal said that we didn't choose our enemies, I agreed with her at one hand, but I also remembered that it was Israel and the IDF who tore down the Fatah leadership in Gaza. And that's how the Hamas actually took power. Just very similar to what happened with Hezbollah. You know that Nasrallah only took the leadership because Israel has assassinated the leader who was before Hezbollah. So we keep killing the political leadership and hoping that the people will stop fighting us. This is not solving any problem. And the next attack on Gaza will just bring more and more and more insecurity to our houses and more death to the other side. The only hope is peace and a Palestinian state now. Not tomorrow, not in 2 days, not when the Americans press us enough. Now.
Again, I think I'm repeating myself, but still, I know and I understand all the Americans' point of view that this takes a lot of issue about peace or Palestinian. But we shouldn't forget what is the main thing. It's our society. And our society has to improve itself and to take care for the rights for all the kinds. And we as religious Orthodox, we want to bring and to be the bridge between the Orthodox people into the Israeli society. And as I said, it's not the issue. If we will be all united inside Israel, inside our community, I think this peace from the inside will influence outside. And we are always taking the outside things and not what is coming from the face of the society of Israeli. So let's think again, what is the main thing? What is important and what is irrelevant? And I think this is irrelevant. This is our state. The government here in Israel has to be from Jewish. It has to be for Jewish people first of all, and then the democratic. But first we have to build our society. Thank you.
Look, let me tell you a secret. You arrived in a very dangerous area where you have conflicts, not only from Gaza, it also comes from the north, from Lebanon, from Syria, even from Jordan, and even from Egypt. And the way to deal with it is either an agreement or to have deterrence, harta. And what we achieved in Tzuk Eitan is to have a strong deterrence. It means that right now there's no missiles that are shooting in because they know they will lose a lot. We gave them a huge strike and they're too scared to do it. And this is the same up that goes to the north and to Syria and to all the other areas. Plus, I want to let you know there was a speech as well of the Minister of Defense. And he said that we did purchase very advanced technology to look after the problems of the tunnels. The tunnels were problems even from many years, from before. And so right now we're looking after it. And the important thing is to keep up to the game and make sure that you have enough deterrence and that your enemy will not be able to attack you. And this is what we've done for all the years that we've been living here. Now, it's very important when everybody are talking about the Palestinian issues and like the conflict. The person who sets the tone and decide what is going to happen is the prime minister, and it's the leader of the big party. And right now, there's a choice between two parties, between Benjamin Netanyahu in the Likud and between Bougie and Tzipi in the Labor. And you really need to think who's going to look after your security interests. This is what you really vote for the economy and for your security. And no, he didn't. And obviously, and this is the proof. The economy is stable, it's growing. I talked about the unemployment. Yes, we need to do more. But they don't really give you other solutions except of telling you what is wrong with the country. No one's telling you this is what needs to be done. Like, they'll tell you we need to take the power from all those tycoons, the rich people. What are you going to do? Are you going to nationalize all businesses in Israel?
Sharen, אני צריך לקצר. יש לנו זמן קצר.
Honestly, sorry, I didn't hear.
All right, I want to keep this with the panelists. You can answer the question when we're finished.
So look, all of us want to make. I just want to
מסיימים תכף, אז אני הייתי רוצה שרונן גם יספיק להגיד משהו. תודה.
Look, I'll stay later to talk to you about it because all of us want the same thing. We want to make the situation better, but everyone has different tools and different experience. And we believe and we see that with a liberal economy, with breaking those monopolies and those unions, the situation becomes better and better.
Sharon, I have to cut you off. Sorry.
Okay. So at the end of the day, what you need to choose is who's going to lead the economy, who's going to lead the security, and this is the real choice in these elections. The small parties do not set the tones on it, and a lot of the times they put sticks in the wheels when we really try to do reforms and move things forward in this country.
I believe that we're concluding, right? So let me tell you something about Hamas. Hamas is a terror organization. We should not negotiate with Hamas. We should fight Hamas. And I have to say, if we're concluding, listen, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, this election is not about Bougie or Bibi. Most likely that Bougie and Bibi will sit together in the next government as they've done in the past. It's not about Bibi or Bougie. It's not about it. Look at the facts. They've been sitting together for over and over again. It's about which party will be courageous enough, brave enough to touch and to do the things that nobody else dared to touch for many, many, many years. Which party is going to fight for the soul of this country, for the soul of this, the spirit of this country? Which country is going to be free to report to the public, to report to the citizens, not to report to its central committee members? This is about, these elections are all about. So vote Yesh Atid, vote for Yesh Atid. There is a future for Israel. Thank you.
I want to say something, excuse me. It's not about that just to touch, it's about to do. Actions, this is what we need. You shouted about what we're struggling every day, exactly that. All these parties, with all the respect, but what were their actions? It's not only talking and talking. You know the joke that say, before the elections you talk with the people, but after the elections you talk to the wall. And we don't need that anytime, and again, these elections. So please vote for Vizchutan, that we are fighting for the real rights of the salary of the women, that it's lower for 30% from the men's, and it's about the time to change, about the kindergartens,
Gila,
about
I have to cut you off because we have to leave.
That has to be changed. Thank you.
We have to wrap this up. The broadcast is ending. I want to thank the panelists. They'll still, if you have any more questions, I'm sure they'll entertain them. If you guys want them to vote for you, you'll be here to answer more questions. I want to thank Ro for organizing this evening. Thank all of you for being here. Let us all hope that we have a good election and a good celebration of democracy next week. Thank you all.
A big thank you to Daniel Seaman for agreeing to come be our moderator. A big thank you to Midabrim Studios, who's broadcasting this live. The video will also be available online later if anybody's interested in reviewing it again. I'm sure that our panelists will stick around for a bit to answer any questions you may have regarding social life and food prices and all those things that we wanted to talk about. Have a good night.